Hello and welcome to Bharat Blossoms. This is lecture number 1C of our Science and Technology module. In this, we shall discuss about launch vehicles of ISRO. In previous videos, we have seen about different types of orbits, difference between rockets and jet. If you haven't watched it, do watch. The links are pinned in the description. So let's move forward. देखो इसरो के तुमने रॉकेट्स के बारे में हमेशा सुना होगा जब भी कोई सैटेलाइट लॉन्च होती है या कोई मिशन लॉन्च होता है जैसे चंद्रयान मंगलयान। तो उनके जो मिशंस को जो कैरी करता है जो रॉकेट होता है जो लॉन्च व्हीकल होता है उनका नाम PSLV GSLV GSLV MK3 LVM दीज आर द थिंग्स विच फ्रीक्वेंटली कम अप इन न्यूज़ पेपर्स एंड मंथली मैगजीन। सो इट्स अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक एंड इस पर बहुत सारे क्वेश्चन भी आ चुके हैं। तो देखते हैं कि हमारी इस स्पेस जर्नी की या स्पेस मिशन की शुरुआत कहाँ से हुई। वी हैव स्टार्टेड फ्रॉम अ वेरी हम्बल बिगनिंग। जैसे आप सबने एक वेब सीरीज आई थी रॉकेट बॉयज़। The web series available as Sony Live. It's a must-watch web series if you like watching web series. It's a means one of the best web series I have ever seen. It's the story of Homi Bhabha and Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, and also tells about Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. So our story starts with sounding rockets. So what are sounding rockets? Sounding rockets are basically used for studying atmosphere beyond meteorological balloons and below the minimum height permitted for satellites. So our first rocket with India launched in 1963 was actually a sounding rocket. This image I have taken from movie web series clip itself. This is see how people are launching a sounding rocket by themselves with the help of rope and hands. The launch of first sounding rocket from Thumba near Thiruvananthapuram, Kerala on 21st November 1963 marked the beginning of Indian space program. These rockets, earlier it wasn't indigenously made in 1963, it was imported from Russia and France. You must have seen this picture of a part of rocket being carried on a bicycle. It's a very famous picture. These all are the parts of sounding rockets which were assembled by the scientists of ISRO under the very able leadership of Dr. Vikram Sarabhai and was launched in 1963. So this is how space program of India began. And from such a humble beginning, we have came to become a nation which reached the south pole of moon successfully to be the first nation of the world. So it's a very proud moment for all of us. So let's move forward. After sounding rocket, we move towards a launch vehicles. Our first launch vehicle was simply known as satellite launch vehicle. The first rocket developed by ISRO, it was a four stage, all solid fuel. See, these terms, four stage, solid fuels, we have already discussed about different types of fuels in our lecture 1. You must watch that lecture before watching this, okay? So, whenever we talk about stages of rocket, so any rocket is composed in different parts. For example, this is stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. When these rockets are launched, these parts get separated one by one in the space. This is what is meant by stage. This term will come repeatedly again and again, so I have told you here only. So what is satellite launch vehicle? It was the first rocket developed by ISRO. It's a four-stage all solid fuel. This term you have to remember for every rocket. For SLV means it's a four-stage and all are solid fuels. The next one was ASLV or the augmented satellite launch vehicle. SLV has four stages. ASLV had five stages. It was a more advanced version of SLV only. It also had all solid fuels because by that time we didn't had liquid fuels or cryogenic fuels. SLV and ASLV both could carry small satellites weighing just up to 150 kgs to lower Earth orbits. What is lower Earth orbit? I have already explained in previous lecture. Do mention it in the comment box if you remember. ASLV operated till early 1990s before PSLV came to the scene. So most important rocket nowadays is PSLV. So let's see what is PSLV. PSLV stands for Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle. It was launched first in 1994 and since then it has been the main rocket of ISRO. ISRO has used it for many satellites and many important missions. You must have seen these pictures coming from ISRO on news websites whenever a satellite is launched. It is the first Indian launch vehicle to be equipped with liquid stages. See, this is when the liquid stage or liquid fuel was first ever used in a rocket by ISRO. PSLV also had four stages, just like SLV. The first and the third stages were solid propellants. You have to remember these things, that which stages were solid, which stage were liquid, which stage were cryogenic. So in PSLV, the first and third stages use solid propellants, while second and fourth stages use liquid fuels. So they were alternate. If, for example, there are four stages, so first and third were solid fuels, and second and fourth were liquid fuels. Cool. So, PSLV has successfully launched two spacecraft, Chandrayaan 1 in 2008 and Mars Orbiter spacecraft in 2013, that traveled to Moon and Mars respectively. PSLV had been vehicle of launching the international satellites from India, thereby earning revenues for ISRO. See, when we launched sounding rockets, we didn't have our own rockets. We imported it from Russia and France. Now it's such a proud moment that ISRO is launching the satellites of another countries with its own PSLV vehicle. and thereby earning revenues for ISRO. It was designed only for launching satellites in polar orbit, but due to lack of development of GSLV, it was also used for telecom satellites as well. See, there are this is just a base. This is just a basic about PSLV, and over the time, ISRO has launched many variants of PSLV. So now we'll see what are the different variants of PSLV. All the variants are not very important, but I have listed all the variants which have been used by ISRO. For example, PSLV CA, XL. Some of the variants are important, so I have highlighted them in yellow. See, PSLV XL. It has 4 stages and 6 strap-on motors. The difference is in all the variants is these strap-on motors, which increases its functions. The payload capacity is 1800 kilograms. It was used for the launch of Chandrayaan 1. Here you have already seen the Chandrayaan 1 and Mars Orbiter mission. So this PSLV XL means this variant of PSLV was used for Chandrayaan, AstroSat, IRNS satellite. This is India's own GPS satellite. We'll be talking about it in upcoming lectures when we'll study about satellites. The other variants are PSLV HP, PSLV DL. This is the most latest version of PSLV, PSLV C53. The spent final stage will be utilized as stabilized platform to perform experiment. So what has actually ISRO done in this? That we have already seen what are the stages. So generally all the stages gets consumed up, but in PSLV C53, this final stage will orbit in space. This is the final stage of PSLV C53. It has been given a special name called POEM. So it was in current affairs and it can come up in any recent exam. It was in current affairs last year's only. So let's see what is this POEM. POEM stands for PSLV Orbital Experimental Module. It is the first time that stage 4 would orbit the Earth as a stabilized platform. POEM is carrying 6 payloads, including 2 from Indian space startups, Digantra and Dhruv Space. These 2 names are important. That this is how a private sector is being included in our space programs. These are names of 2 startups who have developed their satellites, and ISRO is carrying their satellites. POEM has a dedicated navigation guidance control system for altitude stabilization. These are the some technical details which can be asked in exam. POEM will derive its power from solar panels mounted on PS-S4 tank. See, these are the solar panels, and it will get its energy from the solar energy. It also uses a lithium-ion battery which will convert solar energy into chemical energy. It will navigate using 4 sensors, magnetometers, gyros, and NAVIC. See, it has used NAVIC. NAVIC is from IRNSS, which I've already told. It is India's own GPS system. The other variants are PSLV 4QS, 3S. We have also variant of PSLV which has only 3 stages. Generally, PSLV has 4 stages. So 2 variants are important which you need to remember, that is PSLV XL and PSLV C53, because this is most recent and it has been in news of late. After PSLV, we move to another launch vehicle, that is GSLV. GSLV stands for Geosynchronous Satellite Launch Vehicle. It is the most powerful launch vehicle of ISRO. See, the most powerful rocket meant to carry heavier satellites much deeper into space. Till date, GSLV has carried out 18 missions, out of which 4 ended in failure. This is one of the rockets of ISRO which has seen maximum failures. It can take satellites up to 10,000 kg. This is a very heavy weight for rocket to lower Earth orbits. It has indigenously developed cryogenic fuel. What is cryogenic fuel? Do mention it in the comment box. It has already been taught in previous lectures. GSLV Mk3 versions have made ISRO entirely self-sufficient for launching its satellites. Before this, it used to depend on European Ariane launch vehicles to take its heavier satellites into space. The GSLV Mk3 version is used for heavy satellites. See, just like PSLV, there were very many variants. GSLV has also many variants. For example, GSLV Mk1, it uses Russian cryogenic engine. From GSLV Mk2, we have indigenous cryogenic engines. Mk2 has 3 stages and 4 boosters. The cryogenic engine is CE 7.5 and payload capacity is 2.5 tons. The GSLV Mk3, which is the most important, it has 3 stages, 2 boosters. Payload capacity is 10 ton or 10,000 kilograms for geostationary orbit. It is the strongest rocket. You have to remember that which is the strongest rocket of ISRO. It is not PSLV, it is indeed GSLV Mk3, and it has been renamed as LVM3. So whenever you come across this name LVM3, it means it is talking about GSLV Mk3 only. LVM3 has launched 36 satellites of OneWeb company in 1200 kilometer orbit. What is OneWeb? OneWeb is a company which provides satellite internet services, just like Starlink of Elon Musk. Mk3 versions have made ISRO entirely self-sufficient for launching its satellites. This I have already discussed in previous slide as well. This is how GSLV Mk3 or LVM3 launched OneWeb satellites. You can have a look at this infographic later. The another technology which ISRO has recently developed is small satellite launch vehicle. These are the launch vehicles which is used for delivering small satellites. Right? For delivering small satellites, why will we use so much technology of GSLV or PSLV? So ISRO has made a small satellite launch vehicle. It's a 3-stage, and all the stages use solid fuels. This SSS stands for solid, 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 and means all 3 stages. It has velocity trimming module as terminal stage. SSLV is a vehicle on demand, means whenever you want to launch a satellite, you can simply bring up the parts of SSLV and it can be assembled in no time. And also, it can be assembled both horizontally and vertically. It has a payload capacity of 500 kilograms. Another important point is that currently ISRO launches its satellites from Sriharikota in Andhra Pradesh. But in future, ISRO is planning to launch small satellite launch vehicles from a place named Kulasekarapatnam in Tamil Nadu. Why is ISRO doing so? See, when rockets are launched from Kulasekarapatnam, this maneuver is not required as there is no landmass along its flight in the southward direction. When ISRO launches satellites from Sriharikota to go in orbit, it takes this path. So here in between Sri Lanka comes, if by chance any misfortune happens, the satellite can fall over Sri Lanka and it can be a major international disaster and hamper our international relations as well, and also a humanitarian crisis can occur. So the satellite takes the maneuver in curvature paths, which causes much extra fuel to be used. But when we launch the satellite from Kulasekarapatnam, it can go in straight line because it will not cross over Sri Lanka. See, this maneuver is given a special term known as dogleg maneuver. So a question can come that dogleg maneuver is related to what? It is related to satellite launches. See, dogleg maneuver is a sharp turn that causes rocket to deviate from a straight path. This maneuver requires more fuel in rocket, which eats into the payload capacity of the launcher. I hope this is clear that why we are planning to launch from Kulasekarapatnam instead of Sriharikota. Main motive is to save fuel. The another recent technology which ISRO is working upon is a reusable launch vehicle. See, this is a very beautiful photo posted by Indian government itself on its PIB. This will be India's space shuttle. The first stage will be semi-cryogenic, having ISRO scene. We have also discussed what is ISRO scene in our previous lecture. As fuel in place liquid hydrogen. The second stage will be a cryogenic. The first stage will carry up to a certain height and then it will glide back into like an aeroplane. So we'll understand this with the help of an example. Just see this picture. The satellite will be launched. What happens when any normal satellite like PSLV or GSLV is launched, it goes into space and it gets burnt out there and there's no returning back. It's a one-time use. But what happens in reusable launch vehicle is that the satellite gets separated and it's designed in such a shape. See, it looks like an aeroplane, a small aeroplane. So it completes its mission, and after completing its mission, it just glides like an aeroplane on surface of water. It comes down, leaving the satellites in space. ISRO has also developed a rocket called RLV-TD. So this is that RLV-TD, which had successful flight in 2016. So a question has not been asked on reusable launch vehicle until now in any of the exams. So this is one of the topics which you need to prepare in some of the depth. There was also many articles in Hindu and Indian Express on this reusable launch vehicle. If you have time, do visit those articles. Those are very good articles which you must read. So thank you. And our next lecture will be different types of satellites. Stay tuned to Bharat Blossoms. Jai Hind.